PAISBOA. How's everybody? You awake? You have enough coffee? No? Never enough? I'm Aggie Malter, and I was just about to say I'm the new executive director of PAISBOA, but you know what? I've been here for a year, so I'm not so new anymore. So I am the, I think I've graduated to not quite veteran, but at least experienced executive director of PAISBOA. I'm delighted all of you could be here with us this morning. As you know, PAISBOA is the mothership, as we like to say, and I'm delighted to welcome the new business officers. Can you guys stand up? We had a new business officer breakfast. Can you guys stand up? So these folks are new to PAISBOA, and I would like all of you who have been with PAISBOA for a while to give them a warm welcome. Thank you. Thank you. They need your help. We told them you would help them, so please do. I have a lot of thank yous to just get out of the way this morning. PAISBOA is here because people like you want to save time and money, right? I mean, that's why we're here. And so we took the time to draw the picture for all of you about what membership in PAISBOA means. So if you haven't picked one of these up and you are not availing yourselves of the benefits of PAISBOA, you should really consider that. There are lots of ways that we have thought about to help you as business officers and HR professionals save time and money, network with each other, collaborate with each other, commiserate with each other. You know, I said to the new business officers this morning, you've paid your therapy bill already. Use it. So here's the couch. Start talking. We are delighted that you are a collaborative bunch, a collegial bunch, and it really helps us do a good job for you because everybody is so willing to help each other and join in. So I want to thank all of you for your participation in PAISBOA. It means a lot to us, and it means a lot to all of your members. So thank you. I want to thank the board of PAISBOA. They are a hardworking bunch, and they are here to make sure that we are on the right track and helping me stay abreast of everything that's going on in your schools so that I can help you find solutions to whatever problems you have, but also help you find new ways to do things. So lots of professional development in store for this year, and I hope we'll see you at all of our in-person meetings. We'll also be doing one webinar a month this year, in addition to the once a month in-person professional development meeting. So lots going on in PAISBOA. Lest you think that this is a group of where the big schools subsidize the small schools and all of that. We are all in this together, people. We have a shared risk, shared reward policy here at PAISBOA. So for all of you, you are more than welcome and more than important to all of our success as a group. So help each other, enjoy each other's company, and just come out and join in. I want to thank Bob and Patrick. I don't know how much you know about the sort of the inner workings of the Health Benefit Trust, but I get to share an office with Bob Miller and Patrick Hennessy every day, and I can tell you nobody works harder than them on your behalf. They are here before I get here in the morning. They are here after I get here at night. They work nights. They work weekends. I think Patrick has had one day off. I don't think Bob ever takes a day off, but I think Patrick's had one day off since he started in the spring. So I just want you to know how much I appreciate what they're doing on your behalf, and I need you to know that for you because they are tireless in their efforts to make the Health Benefit Trust great for you, great for your employees, and I just want you to give them a round of applause. So thank you, Bob and Patrick. How many of you participated in the focus groups this year? Can you stand up? If you came to the focus groups this year, when we were deliberating between the Health Benefit Trust and who our carrier was going to be, how many of you were here? A lot of you are here. A lot of you are here. And these people took time out of their busy schedules to come out and work with us and think with us, and it was an arduous process. So thank you for participating in that, and thank you for all that you do for your fellow members of the Health Benefit Trust. And even though that the Health Benefit Trust is a separate entity from PAISBOA, we are collegial, we are collaborative, and we are happy to work together and still benefit from, a lot of good thinking. So, we are all here for each other, and we want to make sure that you know that we're all working for you. The board of the Health Benefit Trust, they are another hardworking bunch. They are here at least once a month, phone calls, conference calls. They are in the thick of it every day with Bob and Patrick, so they also deserve your thanks. Would the Health Benefit Trust Board stand up, please?
We're going to have them come to the
Okay, that's great. That's great. They are devoted to all of you and making sure that they are doing a great job for you as well. The other pitch that I'd like to make this morning is for the annual data survey. The annual data survey opens on August 7th. That's next Monday. If you've participated in it before, thank you. If you have not, this is a great opportunity for you to gather some information and benchmark yourselves against the other schools in the area and make sure that you've got great information about vendors and great information about other schools. So please, I urge you to take part in that. And finally, I would just like to say thank you for everything that you've done for coming out here today, and I'd like to turn it over to Martha. So thanks.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. I think I'd like to start this morning by settling into a brief moment of shared reflection in the manner of friends. Thank you. We have a full agenda, some exciting news for everybody, but first, like Aggie, I have some thank yous to make. First, I'd like to ask all of the trustees to come to the front and introduce themselves. We have an even bigger and more robust group working for you than ever before. Some of them have started their official terms as of yesterday, and it's important that you can put faces with all of the names, and schools too, so you understand the wide representation that's working on your behalf. I'm Martha Skash, Abington Friends School.
I'm Heather Galty, the Hill School in Pottstown.
Joan Barone from Walden Mercy Academy.
Carol Lerner from the Philadelphia School.
Kristen Heasley from LaSalle University.
Don Cates from Salis University.
Excuse me, Carleton College.
Christine Schaefer, University of the Arts.
Cindy Nichols, Episcopal Academy.
Thanks, everybody. Not here today, but equally hardworking are Tom Taft from Germantown Academy and Michelle Todd from Haverford. So, as Aggie said, this is a very hardworking group. There's been a lot of transition over a short period of time, and thank you. So before I hand the reins over to Bob, I also want to thank everybody in this room. Really, you're as instrumental to where we are today as anybody. That shared commitment has been critical. 130 schools a little over a year ago took a tremendous leap of faith, unprecedented, to travel down a 3-year journey, and we really weren't sure what that journey would look like. It hasn't been without its bumps. We know communication has been an issue that we're working on all the time to improve. We've had to hit the pause button on being able to welcome new members because we need to make sure that we've got everything solidly in place for all of you who took that leap of faith with us before we go there. But understand our commitment as members of PAISBOA, because in the beginning that's how we started, to being a resource for all schools that share our philosophy and our commitment is still very strong, and we will get there. I think what you're going to hear today will convince you that we're headed in the right direction. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Bob and enjoy.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning, and thank you for coming. I think we might have missed one board member. Michael Janes, did you mention Michael? Michael Janes of
University of Sciences.
University of Sciences. Michael's on vacation, lucky Michael. So again, thank you all for coming. It's really been a really interesting year since we met last year. Last year we were talking about risks. We were talking about what we had done to prepare for those risks and get underneath them. And it was nervous looking forward, but looking backward, it's been great. So this is our agenda for today. We're going to bring you up to date on the state of the trust. We're going to talk very briefly about our decision to go to Aetna. Most of you have heard that story a few times. Aetna will be here to answer questions and talk a little bit. And John will bring you up to date on some of the other plans, the ancillary plans, the pharmacy, dental, et cetera. And then we'll finally get around to the main topic of the day, the rate changes, looking forward to 2017-18. And then John again will talk you through the open enrollment process and call you to action for the couple things that you need to be doing over the course of the next 2 months to get November 1st firmly under our feet. Okay, there we are, 130 stars. And you can see there's a little space over on the right for new stars to be added in. Maybe small stars will light up again. And we certainly had a lot of phone calls from people already who are interested in participating in the trust. We've had, in particular, requests coming from the Lehigh Valley, from Western Pennsylvania, to say nothing of the Delaware Valley itself. So there are many people who are keeping close track of what we're doing. Okay, and the word on the street has been a very positive one, as it has been internally. Just a quick recap, there are a number of new people in the room, and while this is an old story, it's an important one, and we'll try and flash through it quickly. As many of you know, we think, founded in 1968 due to the efforts of John Batley of the Westtown School, brilliant innovator, who was the first chair of PAISBOA when we got, or PAISIG when we got organized in the early 90s. And John, who recently just died, and it should be honored by all of us, had a very simple but fascinating idea, which was perhaps teachers and people in the educational profession were possibly more thoughtful about the health, more involved with their health. They might be healthier than the average population. And therefore, as a business idea, it might make sense for particularly independent schools and colleges to get together and share risk, share rates on their health insurance. And that idea was pretty quickly backed up by his investigations into the profession. And what they came up with was a simple one for all and all for one strategy that we have and share to today. That went forward pretty nicely for a couple decades. There may be one person in the room who recalls getting dividend checks from IBC because the plan operated so well. Maybe not. Mike, did you ever get a dividend check? Yeah, there you go. So I never saw one because by the late 80s, rates were rising everywhere. The medical industry was starting to escalate tremendously, partially based on technology, partially based on consolidation, partially based on raw greed. And HMOs came into existence to combat that somewhat. Those pressures together wound up disrupting the health insurance universe by the early 90s in a way that competition was getting fierce, and people were starting to be concerned about things like death spirals, adverse selection, whatever. And Blue Cross actually threatened to fire us as an affiliation. They said, you're not well enough organized. We said, we're not organized at all. So what happened is in 1990-91, the schools not wanting to lose their health plan, the business officers, of course, any problem that you have in a school winds up in a business officer's desk, right? So this one certainly was on the business officer's desk. And in 1991, a volunteer board was formed. I joined that board, Mike joined that board. Any other original members? I'm not sure, but, we got to work getting organized. We hired ADC. We created a formal organization, registered it with the IRS, and we started paying close attention to all the decisions that IBC was making for us. We started bringing strategic vision to what we were doing and try and plan on a multiple year basis. Needless to say, a lot of that planning went very, very well. And by 1999, we had grown a lot. I forget how many, 150, 160 members by then. And PAISBOA, the health insurance group, had expanded its interest to all the things that Aggie was talking about earlier. You can read about on that piece of paper. And we evolved PAISBOA from a health insurance group or benefits insurance group to a professional development organization for business officers and their staffs, and included within that the health insurance program. So there were 175 plus members in the end of PAISBOA, and I think the maximum size for our health insurance group was 145. The difference being explained mainly by the fact that PAISBOA members from New Jersey, Delaware, Western Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley, et cetera, were not eligible for a health plan because we were limited to the 5 counties served by Independence Blue Cross. Next big event that many of you probably will remember is the onset of the Affordable Care Act required our organization to convert from a loose affiliation, sharing rates, but contracting separately with IBC and paying IBC separately. We had to be combined into a single payer organization called a multiple employer welfare arrangement. We spent a lot of money on lawyers and a lot of time together working through the governance changes necessary to become a independent MEWA trust. And no sooner had we done that our members started clamoring for self-funding. We formed as a fully insured trust, pretty much a pass-through trust. The premiums came in on the right side from our member schools, went out on the left side to IBC. So the move to, which was culminated in 2016, to go to self-funding was a pretty revolutionary change for us, as has been mentioned. It took a lot of thinking, it took a lot of work, and I deeply appreciate the work of the trustees and all the other members who participated in those inquiries, very important inquiries. Nonetheless, we made 2 big decisions. One was to move to self-funding, and the second, as a benefit of becoming self-funded, we decided to start unbundling services, and we led off with the key one, which was pharmacy. Under Blue Cross's system, fully insured system, we were being overcharged by 25 to 33% for pharmacy coverage. 25 to 33%. It was huge. We were stunned when we got those reports from experts that we hired, but in fact, it did turn out we were being overcharged by 25 to 33% because in bargaining for our first self-funded rates, we cut the pharmacy component by 28%, and the numbers are coming in right on the mark. So that's a shocker, isn't it? To have your loyal company of 50 years be taking that much advantage of you on a price. But that's the way it is, and that's why we went self-funded, and we will never, ever be sorry that we did so. So today, what are we today? We're a MEWA, multiple employer welfare arrangement. We cooperate together. We have a trust. All the money comes into the trust. The trust is governed by an independent board that the member schools nominate members and vote for them. But that board must independently decide what to do for the welfare of the participants. It's a heavy responsibility. It's a fiduciary responsibility. They're all happy to learn on taking the job that they are they're individually responsible for that fiduciary responsibility, as well as the entity being responsible. It's a heavy load to carry, and one that they carry very well. as a separate nonprofit trust. Okay, we pay no taxes. All the assets that we handle that come in and get reserved, if there is surplus, have to be wholly dedicated to participant health care. So there's no refunds back to the schools. Once the premium is paid, the money is gone from the schools permanently and must be managed by the trustees on behalf of the best interest of the participants. Okay? That is the nature of where we are today. So I got a group of questions I want to ask you. It has to do with who we're working for and how we're working for them. So it's meant to be a little bit of audience participation. It's not the most happy form, but I just want to get a sense of who knows or has heard of anybody, whether it's in your family or your employee population or just a friend on the street, of anybody who's calamitously ill. Have you bumped into that in the last year? Anybody's come down with cancer, a transplant, anything like that? Yeah. Good share of us. Who knows anybody who's had a newborn at risk, had a child in the NICU for a couple weeks? Yeah. Who knows of anybody chronically ill, somebody who has diabetes, CPD, MS, anything? Okay. Finally, who knows anybody who's been financially distressed by medical bills? Okay? Yeah. So which of us in this room or those we know those whom we work with may be next in line to join that group? I have to say that's why we're in business, okay? It's great that we can get people's co-pays down, and it's great that we can provide wellness and keep people from getting in line to be ill. All those wonderful things that we're doing on behalf of 8,200 employees, 15,000 including their dependents. All that stuff is wonderful and great, and it's at the core of our mission. But in the end, the reason that we're in business as an insurance entity is to make sure that all those people that we've heard about, if there are people, if there are employees, they don't go bankrupt, that they don't worry about paying their bills, they don't worry about what the government is doing, don't worry about what anybody else is doing, that they know if they get seriously sick, that we've got their back covered. We don't know who that's going to be or how many of them there are going to be in any one given year. We have no idea exactly what it's going to cost. Statistically, we do. But we do know when those bills come in, we got to be able to pay them. And this is the important thing about the trust and the role of the trustees. They have to plan for the worst possible outcome so that we can guarantee service to our people. And they've done a lot, and we do a lot, to make sure that even the largest calamity is covered. What we don't cover ourselves directly, we have a huge stop-loss company to take care of those bigger claims. So calamity we don't have to worry about in this organization, and that's something that you can say to your employees without qualification, that if they work for you, their health insurance is well covered and will be continuously into the future. That's the way we're planning for it. Okay, and we can do that because we have the right programs and the right partners. The CVS Caremark experiment in the first year, they become fully integrated. They're calming our RX trend. They delivered on everything that they promised. There were a couple little bumps that were inadvertently caused, but they are very aggressively moving forward. You'll hear a little bit more from John later on to make sure that the RX trend does not get out of hand, that those big greedy pharmacy companies that want to raise their rates by 10, 20, 30% don't get to do it for this group. That's a hard struggle. That's a harder struggle than I can imagine us being able to take care of. Thank God we have somebody bigger, stronger, and meaner than we are to fight that fight. We got Aetna starting November 1st. You're going to hear more about that in a minute. New services, better than management. We love their relationship with IBC in a lot of different ways, but IBC, there are a lot of places that they could have improved, and we think we're going to find those improvements. Of course, ADC continues after 25 years now at least to support member institutions and participants. They're in the room. Thank you, you guys. And we have some new partners you've heard from at Holmes Murphy and ACAP and elsewhere who are helping lead us to innovation solutions that we hadn't had access to in the past. So we got there's a long list of other people who are working for us, with us, to make sure that this trust idea can work out. Our current status, we are a participatory democracy. Martha made that point. We collaborate. We depend on the people in the room to make things work. We have you're the essential resource. We have several committees we've organized in the last year. Feel free to join one of them. We have a Health Risk Management Committee that deals with wellness and other programs. Plan Design Committee, which was central to investigating not only the elimination of plans and concentration of plans, but actually then expanded out to be the entity that helped the trustees interview the two carriers and help us decide in a very open and democratic way who to have as our health insurer for the next year. Okay, and then we've started up very recently a communications committee, and Patrick Hennessy's been working tirelessly to get us organized so that we have the names of all our participants. Those who haven't sent in those names will be queried again and again. And we're starting to set up the mechanisms of mass distribution of information to those employees, as well as access to a new website, which should be fired up pretty soon. So organizationally, we're moving ahead. Just the fact that we have Patrick means we're moving ahead. And don't worry about the fact that he's only taking one day off. There's a lot of people in this world that can tell you for sure that every day working with me is a holiday. I won't say a holiday where there's a holiday in it. Yeah. So, but thanks, Patrick. Yeah, I don't know how we did it without him. So, and of course, the support of Aggie and her staff, Ron, Al, is always important on a day-to-day basis. So legally, we're there. Okay, we've spent a lot of money on lawyers over the last 4 years, becoming a MIWA, going in front of the Department of Labor, making sure they were at least not against us, getting the state of Pennsylvania for only the third time to approve a MIWA for self-funded basis. Okay, people do not like MIWAs. They particularly don't like MIWAs in health insurance that come together purely for the cause of health insurance. Because PAISBOA was in existence for, as in one way or another, for 50 years, because we had such integrity as a group, they were happy to approve us, okay? That came through last June. And then finally, sweeping up, we got the IRS to approve us as a voluntary employee beneficiary association, which means we are tax exempt. That's critically important because all this revenue coming in, surplus being created, we don't want to pay taxes on it. We want 100% of that money to be available to the participants. So all the legal authorities are aligned. We are in business. Financially, well, we couldn't be in better shape, really. It's hard to imagine. As you know, the trustees raised rates by 11.3% a year ago, May. That was 4% above the minimum premium needed according to our actuaries from Milliman. They did that to guarantee solvency. This is a startup business, fundamentally a startup business. Usually you have a startup business, somebody gives it either a line of credit or gives it a lot of capital to burn. Startups burn cash, not this one, okay? To make sure that we were not going to go negative, the trustees went in for 4% higher. So we were told by Milliman that at 104% of claims, that we would be break even or profitable 96% of the time. We thought we could take a risk on 4%. Well, ever since then, the trend has moved steadily down. I have to say, I make Milliman do these reports every couple of months because once we were on the risk, I'm a nervous guy. You know, I don't want to lose money. I don't want to go broke. And month by month, every couple of months, the trend has gone down. And as a result, once we started in business on November 1st, taking in money but only paying out claims, okay, taking in premium but only paying out claims, money has been piling up in our checking account. It's virtually certain, we're 3/4 of the way through, it's virtually certain we're going to end the year in surplus. We just don't know how much. We have an idea, but we're not certain because things can change on a dime. And one thing that we include in our calculations, by the way, because we have Milliman, they're saying, listen, remember that once the year is done, you're still going to owe $7 million. Okay, there's going to be claims that have been incurred but not reported. And they've been telling us from January on, you must retain $7 million in cash to cover that responsibility. And we've had no trouble doing that. So once the year end comes, we will have real money in the bank that belongs to us, that belongs to the participants, that we can use as reserves. That could be reserves needed to cushion a big increase that we don't want to take in the future. It could be money that we invest so that we get a return on it. And finally, we can put it at risk in different ways in terms of utilizing stop loss. We'll get into that another time. What you need to know is cash flow has been extremely strong from day one. It continues to be strong, and it's starting to generate a substantial return. Patrick Hennessy, in addition to all his other talents, is a former banker, and he's cheek by jowl with Bryn Mawr Trust, our bank, making sure that every penny that can be earning another penny is at work. And when I say it's at work in a way where it's not at risk, minimal risk, treasury level kind of risk, and it's not locked up for long periods of time where we can't get to it if we have to pay claims. We always have to be in a position where we can honor our claims. So the group of us, Milliman, ADC, our staff, we're watching the claims like hawks. We get claims in every week, we post them, we take a look, we project the trends. We're pretty confident about where we're going this year and where we're going to be going in the future. As a result, the HBT is well positioned for the next big steps. Moving to Aetna is just the first of those. We're looking to have a more innovative future. We're looking to get a grip on cost. In the end, we don't want to just continue to share costs with our employees. Okay, we don't want to continue to raise their premiums. We don't want to continue to raise their deductibles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just shoving the increasing cost over onto somebody else does not work. Because in the end, all the money's theirs anyway, right? If you're going to pay too much for their premiums, you're going to give them less in salary. So we're looking to actually contain the trend of costs, and we're starting to do that. And as Martha mentioned, we're starting, because of inquiries from the outside and because a good organization is a growing organization, we're starting to look at possibilities for growth. So a year ago, we had a slide called Looking Forward. We set a bunch of goals last August 3rd, and I want to report back on them. The Trust will study existing plans and pricing after open enrollment migration is complete. That mission is accomplished. The work was done. The Trust will determine plan eliminations based on enrollment, efficacy, and underwriting. With Milliman's help and the work of the Plan Design Committee, that mission has been accomplished. We set a plan that's being half accomplished this year, and there's provisionally some more concentration plans to go on next year. But we understand where we're going and why. 3, the Trust will work with Milliman to more accurately and fairly price plan designs. This is the hardest job, and I'll talk about it a little bit more later. The mission is underway. The first step is being taken in our 2017-18 rates, particularly the pharmacy rates. And finally, the Trust will work with members on more coherent policies, practices, eligibility, et cetera. This mission just started. We've had a couple surveys out for a while that we will renew. Our first step to understanding how we're working is to find out how that works in each of 130 institutions. It's really hard to set a roadmap for the mass, okay, when you don't know where the individual cars are turning off here, there, and the other place. So our first step is just find out what we're doing, to share our common experiences, at least look at the possibility of best practices, and then see amongst 130 institutions whether best practices want to be more widespread within the group. So this is really kind of a study thing that may at some point in time lead to action. But it's a very complex action because we are a democracy, and what you do, it's almost like, I hate to say it, Obamacare, you know, what you do in your individual state, we don't determine, okay? Okay. So as I said, the first big step was move to Aetna. Most of you have seen these slides before. Why would we do this to ourselves? It's a huge amount of work. Aetna, ADC, Patrick and I are once a week we're on the phone. Every day somebody's doing something to get the gears all to be recalibrated and reconnected so that our claims can move over from IBC to Aetna successfully without there being any hitches that affect our members. So we chose Aetna for these. I'm not going to go through all these, but we felt that Aetna was better equipped to manage our employee needs into the future, particularly since we have three interests, not just high quality services, but increased patient satisfaction with the whole insurance service process, and a better sense of well-being amongst those patients. And finally, lower overall costs in the future. Lower all costs that occur not because we're cutting things out, but because we, working with Aetna and the providers out there, are trying to create a more efficient system. We chose Aetna because they backed up their promises with a very substantial claims target guarantee. They were willing to bet, they only make about $4 million. That's their administrative services fee out of a budget of what's getting close to $100 million. They put 25% of that at risk. They said if your claims next year are more than 3% higher than they are this year, then they're going to start paying one of every $3 until they use up the first $1 million of their own fee. I have to tell you, I mean, Tim will get up here and tell you, he doesn't intend to pay one nickel. In other words, they've looked at us. They know what a good risk pool that we are, okay? And they know how good their systems are at controlling risk, at controlling expense. So their willingness to guarantee that we won't go above 3% says me, I know what their margin for error is. They're pretty certain that we're going to be well under, okay? This was a real big decision maker. High performance customer service. We visited their customer service, dedicated customer service team in Allentown. About 10 people went up there, spent 4 or 5 hours looking really hard, kicking the tires, not kicking the people, but talking to the people, and came back totally impressed at what you're looking forward to in customer service for your employees next year. We hope it works out as well as it's been proposed. And then finally, not finally, but we're looking at network access quite a bit. They satisfied us that they were competitive for IBC locally, and they also pointed out we're a national network. Your employees can be anywhere. You don't need guest privileges. You don't need this or that. You don't need to hire a new insurance company because you want to bring in members from Lehigh Valley or Western Pennsylvania, New Jersey, wherever. We got it all. And it's more seamless, okay? I already mentioned the administrative services only fees. They were a lot cheaper than, in the end, than IBC was willing to be. And they gave us a month off as a clincher. They said, we'll give you a 1 month fee holiday. So we're starting out the year 1/12 of whatever the cost was ahead. And they were ahead by $300,000 anyway. So it's really great when you pick the best partner, and it turns out to be a good deal as well. But in the end, we were looking for, and what we are looking for, is a more innovative partner as well as better deal. And one thing we'll be talking about increasingly, and I hope over the next year, and I hope Tim talks about it just a little bit, is there's a model for working with the health insurance industry that in some ways has been capitalized on by Obamacare in terms of working with Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera, to have the organization that serves your health be more integrated. The records are better, they're talking to each other, the doctors and hospitals are working together to create a more efficient, efficacious result. And they've positioned themselves, supposedly, that they can be at risk. In other words, they'll give a lump sum, for example, charge for doing a knee, a hip, or whatever it is, and they'll guarantee the result. They screw up, it's on them. They're gonna do it the second time for free. That kind of approach, skin in the game. That's basically what it is. And the idea that all of us, they don't have to get poorer. They can still make a lot of money. But what we want to stamp out is the 25 to 40% waste that's built into the medical industry, into the medical system. If we can stamp out that waste, we can have stabilized premiums. They can have a good lifestyle. They can still play golf on Wednesday. Okay, on that note, Tim. I'd like to introduce again Tim Neary of Aetna. Many of you have heard him talk at least once before. He's going to try not to be too repetitious, but hopefully he's here to answer your questions. You had a few months to think about it, so interrupt him like crazy. There's nothing that he has to say except to satisfy you. Tim?
Thank you. I'm going to good to see you all again. I'm going to start with a couple of comments on Bob's lines. Sometimes it hurts me when he says that he got such a good deal for a better option. It goes against the grain of every argument I have with my wife when she come back from shopping and she's like, you have to pay for quality. When I look at the price of some of the things, he obviously doesn't subscribe to that. And I know we don't hope to pay out on any of those guarantees. I certainly don't, because I might not be here next year. So this will be the last time potentially you hear me present this stuff if everything goes awry. But I don't expect it. So all kidding aside, we are moving and progressing forward with our installation. We do have weekly calls. Everything has been going smooth at this point. There's a lot of work that's been done. I think John and I and the ADC team recognize there's a lot of work that's going to need to get done in the coming weeks, probably starting 2 weeks from now through September with open enrollment. So, with the level 1 effective dates, and I know today's a big date of the unveil of rates and things like that, we do appreciate your help in trying to make quick decisions on plan design selections so that from our side we can prepare for what you'll need for your open enrollment meetings, et cetera. So I think in general, we're excited about it. I'm kind of tired of talking about what we can do and excited to get to the point where we're talking about what we are doing. And we do look forward to the fact that, I do think this is a better opportunity from a member standpoint. When you look at the tools, capabilities, and opportunities that we're presenting, whether it's service, whether it's, again, website, digital tools, things like that, it really does present a tremendous opportunity for members. And I think for the trust itself, some of the points that Bob brought out about the ability to expand, the ability to contain costs in a way that's beneficial to the member, taking advantage of where we're investing from an ACO standpoint, our provider relationships, et cetera, I think all leads to good things down the road. So we're certainly looking forward to that opportunity. Just a reminder of who we are, in case you forgot from the last time you saw some of these slides. It does feel like Groundhog Day, so I apologize. Some of these slides are repetitious, but we want to make sure, sometimes you have to say it 3 times. We're going for like 7 times for you guys to just remember everything. We are a national company, but we are very locally focused. So from a standpoint, we have a region here, headquartered here in Bluebell, the account management team in Bluebell. Don't want you to feel like we're from somewhere else. Maybe you guys have seen all the commercials that are flying around from Aetna. We aren't historically a company that spends a lot of money on advertising, so it was a big thing for us to be in an advertising pilot. So if you get up and watch the news in the morning or news at night, you'll see that. Prime time, I hear it's on. I watch sports channels, so I don't really see it. It's not on the ESPN or the Golf Channel. But service-wise, local. Service-wise, in terms of member services in Allentown. So very, very strong commitment to the market. And then I think the other thing, again, just echoing for once we get to open enrollment, that's when the members are going to come up and start asking about providers. That we have a very large national network. We have a very large local network. We did the disruption. We had roughly a 98% match to the providers being used. So, that should eliminate a lot of the concern and the trepidation from members coming in. So we're happy about that. Also, the opportunity to be able to go nationally to other facilities as needed for maybe more complex needs. This opens the door for that to happen very easily. And as Bob mentioned, the guest services, certainly like college kids, things like that, makes it a lot easier for that situation. Any questions? Yes.
We have a couple of faculty members who are in a position where one person is at stage 4 cancer, and we don't want to see any disruption in her treatment or care. And we don't want to see disruption in her doctor. We also have a faculty member who has a child with mental illness and has worked hard to get to the right doctors, get the right care. And we also
Actually, that's a good question. Thank you for bringing it up, because it might impact all of you. There might be somebody within each of your schools that has situations like this that maybe you're not aware of yet, but could come up. So there's a couple of different things that come into play there. One is we are getting a pre-certification list sent over to us from IBC as we get closer to the installation time period, or the effective date. That allows us to see what services have been pre-approved, and this might be geared more towards, like, say, for example, the cancer patient. You know, what might they have on deck for the coming months, so that we can make sure that there's an easy transition from that. In any given case like that, if the member is receiving care, in the midst of treatment, and for some reason it's non-PAR, we do allow for a transition of care. So if it was a doc that wasn't with us. So we just talked about 98% match. Let's say we found one of those unique doctors that, for whatever reason, is not participating. So we would allow a transition of care time period so that that person doesn't have to stop immediately with that doctor and find another doctor. So basically what we do is we try to allow them to go through that treatment and then slowly work them over to try to find an in-network provider. The other side, where you might have a handicap-dependent type of situation, we actually will take a file. I believe we're taking a file, or we might already have that identified. So we'll preload that in the system as well, so that they can continue to get coverage without concern. And in that situation, if there's the same thing, that if they're seeing, for whatever the condition might be, a provider that's non-PAR, we would look forward to doing a transition of care for that as well.
What if they're not comfortable with transitioning to a different position?
Well, unfortunately, over time, they will have to make that choice. Now, they have plans that have in-network and out-network coverage. Over time, they would have to make a decision. Do we want to transition? We can always try to get that doc on board, too. So that's not an issue. But if the doc says, you know, I'm not going to participate, then that member at some point will have to make that decision.
So what is like the length or time period we're talking about?
It depends on the type of service, but it's usually like a 3 to 6 month range. Again, if somebody was in the middle of treatment, it might be longer than that.
The other thing I want to point out, though, is that this 98% match, we've sent out these links, we've asked the people to go online and check with their doctors and see if there's a drop-off. We've actually had 5 instances where schools have said to us, hey, this is somebody's specialist, this is somebody's PCP, they're non-PAR, and we've gone through that outreach program and actually started to bring them into PAR. If it's a facility, that's going to be PAR. If it's doc, have your people over the next couple of weeks take a look and review that and get that back to us. The one thing that's going to drive me to distraction, and I think it will drive you to distraction as well, is when they tell you, hey, November 2nd, I'm having hip replacement surgery. That's not a problem, right? So you might want to just kind of get ahead of that and tell people, look, we're making this change. The scheduling of surgery, if it's in place now, that's unavoidable, but we'll have those records in place with Blue Cross. That's our prior authorization file. So this prior authorization file says this is what's going on today. We're going to move that forward to Aetna, and all of those things that are already plugged into the system, they carry over, so then that's seamless. It's those types of one-offs where a person says, I was thinking about going into this particular procedure on this particular day, which is a week into the install of this new plan. That one, we just wanted to say to these people, if you're going to do that, have the conversation with your doctor now to say, hey, we're changing from Blue Cross to Aetna. Do you foresee that as being a problem? Then, if that doctor was to say, you know what, I'm actually non-PAR with them, not participating, we want to know about that immediately so that we can begin to have that conversation. But I have to say that over the last 60 to 90 days that we've been doing these dialogues, we haven't heard too much of that disruption factor where people are saying, I see this one particular doctor with non-PAR and I need to have this thing done. It's been more of the 2% that we found there seems to be more mental health and chiropractic. So non-PCP types of specialist issues, more niche.
Can you resend that link?
Oh, I'm going to speak to that specifically when I get to my piece, but yes, Kat, I will. Yep.
Great. Thank you. Good question. Yes?
I have a question. I was surprised to hear about the thing where you're guaranteeing claim levels. Because what I've been telling folks is these people are just the processors. They're not going to deny you because they don't have any incentive not to give you the care you deserve. You know, we've all had that experience, right? And so when I heard that, I was like, whoa. I mean, how are
That's a
You
good
need help
question.
with that one?
No, I don't think I do.
You want me to do that one? Or you want to do that one?
I'll address it. This is my job. This is what I do. You know, there is a fear that I hear, it's funny, like 1994, 1996, U.S. healthcare comes to mind when I started. And I have to remind you, that is a long time ago, and we have changed tremendously. We were bought out by Aetna. We have a whole new, we've had probably 3 management teams come through. The old HMO, where they're on capitation, they're trying to control costs through that mechanism financially, those days have long passed. You know, the way we're looking at controlling costs, the way what we're doing to stand behind this guarantee is, one, we know what our unit costs are. What do we pay per service? Which is based on the studies of Aon, Mercer, Willis Towers Watson, in this marketplace where you largely exist, are literally neck and neck. So we know we're not paying more for the services that are out there. So really it becomes, how do we know we're going to project what the costs are? You have to look at what are you going to do to impact the utilization? How many services are rendered, right? So that's where we look at what are we doing on a clinical management basis. When I talk about our In-Touch Care program that we're introducing, this program was developed actually at the request of Bank of America. That was probably about 8 years ago. We've kind of refined it down so it can be offered in the open market. It's a single nurse case management process. It's married up with a digital platform, meaning you can do responses on your iPad, on your phone, et cetera. And what we found is a tremendous impact in terms of engagement. You know, these are the people we're identifying that are the most critically ill, have certain conditions that are driving more costs. So we've found historically that we are able to better manage that type of population. So we feel that that's going to be a part of it. We talked about through this, we've talked about our ACO, Accountable Care Organization attribution model that we have set up with Del Val, the Del Val system, which is Jefferson, Mainline Health, Doylestown, where these providers are in an at-risk situation with us as well. And the idea goes back to one of the conversations Bob had about trying to tease out the waste in healthcare. So if these docs are all integrated in their information, when your member goes to one doc on Tuesday and has to do a battery of blood tests, next Wednesday when they go to a different doc, they don't have to do that all over again because all that information is in the system and that doc can see that. Those types of things help control costs. So I think, from our premise, it's a matter of what are we doing better clinically that we can add that's going to help drive and temper utilization, not trying to make it denial, more appropriate and helpful. So we're putting our money where our mouth is, as it relates to that. It's not denial. I can't tell you the last time I've got a call that said somebody's ER visit was denied. I mean, 1994, 1996, I got that call all the time. But, that doesn't happen anymore. Does that help? Doesn't seem like it. I'm going to make you an optimist by next year. So let me move along. From a medical plan design standpoint, John's going to speak to this, but we just want to make sure you felt comfortable. What we did is we were really mapping towards what is in place, so not great changes in terms of how the plans that are available in terms of the format. The only difference, as John will show, is like just the naming nomenclature changes. So we have our Choice POS plan, which is the equivalent of the personal choice PPOs, our managed choice plan, which is the equivalent of the POS options, and then the Aetna Select, which is a PCP-driven, which is a plan which is similar to the HMOs. Again, all the same broad network, so people don't have to worry about which plan to choose based on network. They can just look at what their options are and decide which fits their needs the best. It is. It's our national, so the way the plan is developed, sorry for a good question because people will get confused. Yes, the question was around the top plan that marries to the PPO or matches to the PPO is actually referred to as a POS. It's an open access POS, no PCP requirement, no referral required. So it's just, legally we had to file it this way based off of how we built the plan. Sure. Legally, it's not a PPO, but it's a POS that works like one, yes. But this is our national product, so this is what we offer across the board for years. So again, these are mature, stable plans, nothing new that we're developing for you guys using what we have in stock. Okay. Some of the big differentiators, things that we wanted to really focus on, one of the major needs that we wanted to meet for you guys, and this again goes down to the member level, it was really around service and getting you out of the masses when you have to call in for help about your health care. So we actually put you guys in our, I'm going to ask a question in a second, our concierge unit. I need a show of hands because I had this debate at a meeting yesterday. Who says concierge and who says concierge? I was told yesterday concierge is right, and now I can't say it. I can't, I'm not going to do it. For all my life, I've said concierge. It's like a silent H in the Phillies.
It's okay, we're a forgiving group.
Yeah. I also say water. That's why I was debating with people that were from Maryland, right. And I'm like, well, I say water instead of water, so, or however you would say it. Getting back to the point here, concierge service?
Sure, it's good.
Yes. So the idea here was really to move, we developed our Allentown service team. There is a vertical there that handles school consortiums similar to yours. And we plugged you into that unit. It is a dedicated team that handles just schools, school consortiums, et cetera. So they understand the types of questions that your employees are going to have. They also have a limited number of people calling into them. So we use this opportunity, again, we went up, kicked the tires, but it really is, it creates accountability, because I'm sure that you've all experienced an employee coming in, hey, I called member services, I got 3 different answers from 3 different people. Hey, I called member services and it was a nightmare, I just hung up, I couldn't take it anymore. We're trying to give you guys a better option. This has been, again, proven. The satisfaction levels are off the charts in terms of the groups that we put into this. The team is tenured, meaning the probably average age of, not average age, average years of work is probably closer to 10 to 12. And that's a long time in that industry or that sector. So, and you have to work your way in. We don't just hire and plug people in. So these are experienced people that worked on the member services side and the claim side. And we're excited about this opportunity, because the difference is that this doesn't work on the metrics of average speed of answer like member services does for most companies. We're not picking up the phone trying to get to a quick answer and get you off the phone to get to the next answer to meet metrics. This is literally as long as it takes. If a member calls in with a question, they're looking at the screen, they're realizing this member's not registered for Navigator. The question is really geared towards something that could have been resolved on Navigator or our website. Let me show you how this tool works. Let me see if I can get you registered for this. Let me tell you about this program. Maybe you should be looking at this program. Maybe you should register for this. So it's a consultative approach. It's the opportunity to create a teachable moment for the members as they call in. And what we've seen is higher engagement rates of some of the programs that we have as a result from this. So I think it's good. I think it'll be a fantastic change. From my own experiences, the other accounts that I've sold that have used it has been very positive. So I think that'll help also in the messaging as we get to go through 11/1 with the effective date, because we'll have an 800 number. We want to make sure that people, again, the perception is built off of their first experience. So we want it to be a positive first experience for them. I just spoke about Navigator. Again, this is a personal website for the employees. This is where they're going to go for access to claim information, network information, program details. For those on the qualified high deductible plan, this is where they'll go for the member payment estimator tool, where they can actually look up the cost of services. So phenomenal tool, easy to use, and it really, a nice asset for the members to have one common repository for all of their information required. We've invested a lot of money in this. And obviously we're hoping that people will be able to take advantage of it. At the same time, we've also invested a lot of money in mobile, because this is the wave of the future. Anything that we do now in terms of programs are being built into apps. So it's going to be mobile first, and then we'll build it back to desktop, laptop, because we do think that everybody's healthcare will become much more digital, much more phone oriented. You can get your ID card, show it to the docs, kids away at school. They don't have to carry an ID card. They can just pull it up on their phone. You can look at claim information. You can look up docs. You can look up cost of care. all the same capabilities going to be available at your fingertips. So readily available. Yes, sir. No, this is a member site, so unfortunately, unless they give you access to do it with them, they have to actually go out and register on their own. It's got personal health information throughout. Okay. But, as we get closer, we'll have the ID cards, obviously the ID cards out. If for whatever reason somebody couldn't find, they have the ability to go in and print a temporary ID card or request a new ID card.
As much as possible, if administrators who aren't on the plan can get some form of access, it's very helpful for us to understand whether our employees see it or not.
The question was if an employee, if an HR person is not on the plan, is there access to that? The only way you could access this is with their approval. They would have to literally be sitting with you. In terms of, you'll have a portal for Aetna for higher level, but not member specific.
Right, and as we move into this, and anyone who is a group administrator and not on the medical plan, we're going to have this all teed up for you. You might not have digital access, so the Carol learner can't log into because she's on a different plan, but we'll have this for you instead. And this is going to be step by step, as rudimentary as possible. Probably too simplistic and maybe insulting, but it's better to be at that level than at that level. So we have that covered.
Might be an opportunity for you to try out the Aetna coverage too, just saying. Yes. Yes, that's how they register, or they can register. Once they're in the system, once we take the file in and we have everybody loaded, they can either enter by their member ID or their social security number first time. Okay, so again, we're looking for the effective date of 11/1. Between now and then, as questions come up, we're going to get into the open enrollment meetings, things like that, so a lot of opportunity for questions will surface. Between now and then, I would probably still direct you to the ADC team. They take questions, field them, send them to us. Anything we need to look up, work on, to respond back to make sure that you guys have what you need and are responding to your members in a timely fashion. So we look forward to a lot of time on the road in September. August. I'm sorry, I'm jumping months. August and September.
Now.
Yeah.
Jim, you got a question?
I'm sorry, one more?
I just asked a question out of curiosity about how this all works. You have a price list, if I can see, like the colonoscopy or an mammogram. Is there one price or is there a range?
I'll give you a simple example. Go buy broccoli at a grocery store. It changes by store. I mean, it's relative range, but if you go to Whole Foods, it's probably twice as expensive as it is at Giant. So if you go to Penn, it's probably twice as expensive as it is at Einstein. That's how it works. We try to negotiate. One of the things to help control costs, back to the question over there, was, we're trying to work in bundle payments. So if you're going in for like knee replacement, hip surgery, can we do something where we're paying for a global fee for that as opposed to itemized? But in general, no, you'll find, go out and, I'll give you an example. An MRI can cost, at Bryn Mawr, can cost $1,800 for lower back with dye. But if you go across the street or there's a local freestanding MRI and it's $425. Our contracted rate. So actually, it's not us who's paying. It's the trust that's paying. So, there's a lot of education, and that's why that member payment estimator tool is great, because that's not averages, that's actual contract information. And the more that over time we, as the schools move to consumer-directed plans and have maybe that plan in play, those are some of the things that we really want to educate on. I've been on one since 2002, unfortunately, so, I learned.
It's the hospital bill.
Yeah,
It's not
as I mentioned, on average, like if you look across the market, 5 county, Aon, Willis Towers, Watson, Mercer, they have us here. So, within here, if you want to look at it at a micro level, it's like this. But in general, it's here. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, sure. Yes?
So just a follow-up question to that. So the cost estimator, when you're on the navigator, you're putting in the information, so it's as specific as the procedure, the location of where you're having it, and then that will give you said the exact cost?
Absolutely. So the question is, for those who couldn't hear, how does a member payment estimator work? Does it give you exact cost by procedure? So there's upwards of 600 procedures listed. So if you went in, and again, I'll use MRI as an example. I live right here in 19087. So if I went in and I needed to get an MRI, lower back, I could put in lower back MRI, top 10, give me the 10 closest, whatever it might be. And I'm on a high deductible plan, and it's now August. And out of my $1,500 deductible, I paid $900. So I have $600 left in my deductible. So this will process, it's almost like it's going through a claim. It actually is processing the claim up to the point of processing, and it gives you what your responsibility would be. So it would show Bryn Mawr would be, don't go back and tell Bryn Mawr this, would be about $1,800. So of that, you as the member would be responsible for $600, and I think your plan's 100% coinsurance, so the trust picks up the rest. The next option, could be go to any other hospital, be it some number, or freestanding, and that would be $425. You would pay the $425, and you still have not yet met your deductible. So you saved yourself $175. But it is literally contract-based, so what our contract rates are with the providers, and it, for those in high deductible plans or deductible-based plans, it shows you where you are at your point of deductible at that point in time. Yes? Where were you this whole meeting? Finally got the courage to get up. Come here. I'm going to hug you out. Let's hug it out. Yeah. Yeah. It's actually on my phone in my notes. So if somebody stole my notes, they'd have all of my different access points and username, and because I can't. Yep. Thank you, actually. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. No, that's good. I like it. I don't want to take up any more time, but you did make me, I should have talked about real quick. We are introducing, and for those of you who remember Remy, who spoke with me at one of the meetings way back earlier, she started a discussion about something we were introducing or looking forward to introducing, which is Service Without Borders as part of our member services. So think about this. In the transition, a member goes, and we use Quest, and you guys now are with LabCorp. Let's just say by accident that member goes and has a claim at LabCorp and it gets denied because they're not par. Well, Service Without Borders has the idea is advocacy for the member. So our member services folks can look at that and say, okay, there's a range as to how much they can adjust, but they can say, all right, I get it. One-time mistake makes sense. We'll fix that for you. We'll take that away. We'll make sure it's paid so you're not accountable for it. So, in the world of healthcare, there's a lot of little nickel-dime things that just sort of nudges, and I think it's, kind of been the blemish that's, well, there's a lot of things that have been blemish of healthcare, but, that's one of the things that people, like, those little things they just hold on to, and it creates a negative perception. So this Service Without Borders is a new advocacy program we're rolling out, which I think right at the right time, because, if those little things happen to your members, if we're able to kind of take that issue away and they look at it like we're actually listening to them and they got caught up in the system and we're trying to fix something that they're really, unfortunately got dealt a bad hand with on, I think that'll do us some good in terms of getting the membership up to, be excited about the change and happy with the change. So we're happy about that. I think there was one more question, and I don't know if John wants to pull me off.
Thank you.
It's for our membership. That's subscribers' dependents. Okay, just so, between you and I, well, they're gonna, I haven't delved into it that far, but it's been.
Special case, Meg. You're a special case.
But I do want to say, this is not something that we're sending out communications to members on because we don't want them to be like, well, I'm just going to go do this. This is just kind of behind the scenes. You guys are in HR. This, just so you know, we're doing this for your membership, but we're not out trying to promote the idea of go to the other lab because it's more convenient and we'll cover it type of thing. That's not our message here. Our message is really advocacy for when something in the system doesn't work out the way it should and the member's caught up in the middle of it. Okay? Sure. Yes.
HSA stays the same. We're not going to move the HSA. So if you're with Health Equity currently, you have a high deductible plan, you're with Health Equity. Previously it was Bancor. We switched that all over to Health Equity. We're going to keep it with Health Equity. You want to change it? Over to the Aetna variation, which is PayFlex. We are certainly open to having that conversation, but at this juncture, we thought it'd be best to leave well enough alone. But if you're interested in moving that over, we're certainly able to accommodate.
Yeah. The value to that is it is truly integrated. So when they're on Navigator, they'll be able to look at what do they have in their fund. The claims come through. Everything is together. Doesn't have to happen this year. You can do it again next year. You can do it next year, next year's enrollment. But it is an option. But as John points, if you don't want to do too much at once, it's fine. Wherever. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everybody. I was going to do that thing where I make everybody stand up and stretch and things like that, but then I thought to myself, when people ask me to do that, I hate them. So I'm not going to do it, but I thought about doing it. Just I didn't want you to fall asleep during the Act 3. So I'll move quickly through this. If you have any questions, please stop me as we're going along. I just want to go through the nuts and bolts of the medical piece, and then we'll talk about the RX, and then the ancillary lines, and then we'll flip it back to Bob and be done, okay? One thing before I jump into mine, because I start off with ID cards, which is not the most juicy of material to cover, I just want to actually take a step back and kind of reiterate the points that Bob and Martha and others had made. This jumping off point, this decision to move from the Blues after so many years to Aetna, was one that they were very, very thoughtful about. This was not done in a kind of willy-nilly fashion, and the judiciousness that surrounded it was pretty massive. And the one key data point for me, since I'm very, very aware of you and your members, was the palatability of this. Is it going to be able to get done, or are our end users so true blue that this was going to be problematic? So the one really critical data point for me was that the public schools in Bucks and Montgomery County did this. 7/1/2016, they all moved over. Public school unionized teachers from Neshaminy, Council Rock, all those places. They all did this. They were with the Blues for 50 years, and they moved over. So we had a conversation with them kind of leading up to all of these talks, and we said, you got that done? How'd you get that done? It's impossible. It's amazing. And they did it. And then after a couple months later, we thought maybe kind of like the misty-eyed magic of that first date had dissipated, and now you were kind of settling into that. And so I called them back up. I said, hey, how's it going? And they said, it's going great. It's going great. So for me, I thought, okay, if all of them can do it, and they're right here, it's not some wonderland, It's in our backyard, and they're in our space. If they can, we can, and I'm really optimistic about it. The fact that we're able to get a national network, so no more guest membership. We have Mayo Clinic now in the HMO. We have Sloan Kettering in Cleveland. They're all in. You're going to get superior tech. You're going to get superior service. You're going to get the exact same plans, a 98% doctor match. What I have been telling people is that the key change here is the color of the card. Went from blue to red, but everything else is going to be all upside, so I'm pretty excited about it. And with that, let's talk about the ID cards, right? How's that for a segue? Pretty awful. Yes, I agree. So what we're going to do now is talk about how this thing transitions. We are going to keep our RX as is. So we'll just table that because that's immaterial to this conversation. Everybody keeps their same CVS, no change there. That's good news. For the medical, obviously, we're all going to get new ID cards. And those are going to come out well in advance, and we'll have those in hand 11/1. That's why we make these decisions so far in advance. And people get annoyed and they say, God almighty, you're forcing these decisions like way earlier than we used to do. It's because we have a lot of back-end build in order to get that magical card in hand 11/1. So when they get that magic card in hand, previously Blue Cross would send you the sleeve, and you'd pop out one for Janie and Johnny and Joey and Jimmy. Well, now it just lists all their names on the card. It's a family style, okay? So there'll be two. And if Janie and Johnny and Jimmy want theirs because they're going to Penn State and they're up in Massachusetts, you tell them to take out their phone because it's right there. And while they're Snapchatting, they should also be able to load the Aetna app and be good to go, right? If they can't do that, we can order it for them, obviously, but it is a family-style ID card. So that's the first thing. Kind of check that box and move forward. So Kath had asked about this site for the doctor search. So if you go to Aetna.com and you try and find your doctor, good luck. It's nice knowing you. We'll never see you again because there's 7,000 plans that they have under their umbrella. And it gets really, really complicated really, really quick. So they did us a solid. They built us a microsite. And this is the link to it, and I'll send this out to everybody again. Click on that link and it drops you into this page. And then you're given 3 options. And it translates them for you. It says, if you're on the HMO, click here. It's a select. If you're on the point of service, 15, click here. And if you're on the PPO versions, click here. Then that drops you into the specific site that's going to have your doctor sorted. So if I say the select, it takes me here. And I say, all right, I can search 3 ways. My doctor's name. This is not my doctor's name. This is my kid's doctor's name. But if I type in her name, it populates. Her name is Bay. So B-A, and then it pre-populated the rest because it knew where I was looking. I could do it by zip code, or I can do it by type. So hospitals, specialists, etc., and it's going to sort it that way. Name search is probably going to be the best one. But when you do that, it's then going to drop you to, there's Kimberly Bay, and please note the red arrow. The red arrow has next to it the provider ID number. You see it? 7910397. That's Kim Bay's Aetna ID number. Kim Bay also has an IBC ID number. So here's one process step that we have to have everyone on the HMO plans do. And this is outlined, so you don't have to take furious notes, Mike Noonan. What you're going to be asked to do is, through the course of the open enrollment, I can't mass migrate everybody over. Because if I do, I'm making an assumption as to who your doctor is. I don't know that. Even if I do, I don't know what the number is. So, Joe Smith at ABC School sees a particular doctor under the HMO currently. We're going to have that person say, oh, I want the same plan. I'm good to go. But I need to know what that doctor's number is. So this is going to be a mandatory step for everybody on those HMO plans. Tell us who your doctor is, and you actually have to physically put in the number for that doc. Now, I know that is problematic. I've already rolled this out 20, 30 times, and people look at me like, are you crazy? This is a process step that we're going to have to do for this open enrollment. The fail-safe is, though, and this is what I've been told, Joe Smith doesn't even turn on his computer. I mean, he teaches technology, but he doesn't turn that thing on. So what Joe Smith will get is an ID card that says all that information, but it's going to plug in a doctor for him. It's going to give him a doc based upon his zip code, closest one to him, and he's going to say, Andrews, I don't see Andrews. And we'll say, Joe, did you do that thing? You didn't do that thing? You got to go do that thing. And then he can do that thing, and we'll send him out a new ID card, and we're good to go. But until he does that thing, sorry, Joe.
You're assuming he'll even look at that ID
That's true, too. That's a big assumption on my part that he'll even look what came in the mail. He's going to be walking around with that Blue Cross card for the next 6 months. But eventually, he'll have to say, oh, wait, Aetna, yeah, I missed that memo, and then we'll get him going. Because the rectification process for that, right? Joe doesn't do it, card goes out, not the right doc, it's okay. He can call the concierge, boom, done. He can go online, boom, done. He can call us, boom, done. So it's not going to really impact him too much negatively, but it is a process step that we are going to have to ask everybody to take. There was a hand over here. Yes, sorry.
So if they give us their provider numbers, can we put them in Business Solver?
Here, I knew you'd say that. No. I knew you'd say that. You know, everyone is like, no, I'm going to do it for them. I'm going to do it for No. Teach the man to fish. We have to do it. No. I understand you're all wonderful people and your instincts for helping are unmatched by anyone short of Mother Teresa. But it's so much data to collect, and if you just miskey one thing, then so we really would like to put that onus onto them.
So where are they doing?
I will show you. Yeah, I will show you.
John, can I just add
Carol.
another thing?
Yes.
So there is a little hand-holding perhaps, definitely do it themselves, but one other thing that I think is important is as we're onboarding all these new teachers on September 1st, if they don't have a wait period, I am sitting down with them and saying, look at these 2 sites and pick a doctor. Pick a doctor now that is still going to be in the Aetna network. And that, unless you're onboarding 30 or 40 teachers, which I hope you're not, right? That
It's a good year.
that's really worth it. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Yeah, and that's going to be, we're all going to face that, right? You hire new teachers, so there's a conversation. Here's your Blue Cross coverage. This is good for 2 months, and then you're going to move over to Aetna, and they're going to say, wait, what? So that is just part of this process that we will be working with. Let me just show you what we have here. This is going to, in years past, you received this, and we would make 130 copies for the 130 PAISBOA schools. We're making 8,500 copies of this. And in this, it's going to be a review of all of the programs that Tim spoke of, the programs that I'm going to speak of in a second, and then in the back, it goes step by step in terms of how they enroll online and how they capture that Dr. ID number. 8,500 copies. We're going to ship you your box to your school. This goes in conjunction with the Aetna materials that we shipped out to your school. So your open enrollment materials are going to be very, very robust. And we want to just put this in front of them and say, here you go. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Possibly insulting, but it gets down to what they're going to have to do specifically to get this job done. Marianne. Mm-hmm. She's a family practice. It is North Hills Pediatrics, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you know Kim Bay.
So with that being said, do I need to tell my employees that you can't just pick the practice, you have to pick?
No. It goes by practice as well.
Okay, so if they take it as a regular family practice, what will be the number associated with that?
Yeah, well, it's going to list all the doctors underneath, and each one of them has the same number.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's good. Thank you.
Yes.
If we've signed up for ABC to come out and give a presentation at our school,
Yes.
will this process be walked?
Absolutely. So the question is, if ADC is going to do the road show at our particular school, and we currently have 58 of them on the books, yay. I feel like the cast of Hamilton, right? It was good like once or twice, but if you get me towards the end of September, I am going to be on autopilot. It's not going to be my best. So yeah, we'll walk through this entire process. We've got a nice canned presentation explaining all of these things in 25 minutes and then answering all the questions. We feel like that show, this support, the Aetna concierge team is live 9/1. ADC will be obviously there to support this entire transition as well. We're going to get this done. It's not going to be a problem. Michelle.
Just a quick question. So if we do our disabled and other than business hours, we need to make sure that we have the provider.
That's correct. So there are a dozen schools or so that use alternative services, and then we're going to feed that data capture in, and one of the data fields has to be primary care ID number. Yes. Yes, Joe.
So, John, and you indicated this about me. So there's some beauty of what I was like by being the conduit, right?
Yes. So what we're asking then, I'm going to shoot ahead actually, and then I'm going to come back. Okay, give me a second here. Bob, I'm going to jump over your slide. So everybody close your eyes. Okay, Joe and everyone else. This is the online open enrollment section. So what happens here is everyone is going to be given a link at every school, and it's specific to the school. So Friends Select gets the Friends Select link, which drops into the plans that Mike has selected, but Friends Central gets a separate link, which are the plans that Miriam selected. The employees are already loaded in there. So they give us their social, and we know who they are unless they're a new hire, in which case they have to key. And they'll just say, this is who I am, and they populate all that information for themselves. So during the open enrollment, they're going to be entering in their information here, creating a user ID and a password. We did 25 schools use this opportunity last year. This year we want to use everybody because it is 2017. They should be doing this online. So once they get in, it's going to say, all right, let's start here. And they're going to click on that box there. It's going to take them into the plans that you guys have prescribed to. We're going to have some resources there for them if they want to see their benefit summaries, their SBCs, all the supportive material, all loaded into the site. And then it's going to have a phone number up there, which is yours, not mine. Okay, kidding. That's going to be the Aetna concierge number. When they go in, plans are already loaded. You elect it. They're going to choose the HMO plan or whatever it might be. The naming conventions are going to be explained to them in this book. All that information is going to be lined up. And they're going to say, yeah, I want the plan, or no, I don't want the plan. Now, the right circle on the right-hand side there, that is the payroll contribution field. This is nice. If you tell us, and we strongly encourage you to tell us, how much your plan costs the employees, so it's the employer-employee share, we load that into the system, right? So there's a spreadsheet that we complete, and we populate that into the back end of Business Solver. That way, when that person elects that HMO plan, they say, all right, how much is that going to be per month, per pay, whatever your cycle is, so that they know right then, at the election point, what's that going to be on their payroll deduction side, okay? If you don't, it's zeroed out, and they think, oh, the plan's free. Amen. No, it's just that you didn't load it. So if you load it, it shows. If you don't, then it doesn't, okay? After they get done all that information, they are going to hit approve, and then they're confirmed. Here's the thing. We talked about mass migrating everybody over. And people told us, in your seats, don't do that. Make them go through it. Because if you just continuously mass migrate, you have people in there that might not necessarily want to be in there, or are carrying dependents that might not necessarily want to be in there. This forces them to go through it and scrub. So while I can appreciate your desire to kind of be the conduit, making them be aware of this just for a moment and make a decision which is electronically captured. And then we can go back to them and they say, I'm in this plan or I'm not in this plan. Why? Well, let's look at the record. What happened here? And then we can work from that point as opposed to just continuously carrying things over. Okay? Tom.
Sorry, I'm just stretching.
Don't do that to me. Come on, buddy. You know I'm in the zone. All right. So from that point, I'm going to go ahead. There's one hand. Is that you, Helen?
Me?
Yes.
I don't have a question. I have a comment.
Okay.
Thank you for the booklet.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes. There you go. Mara. Yeah, okay, that is not actually a joking question. That's a serious question in terms of, can these presentations be canned? And the answer is yes. The only difficulty is the specifics of the plan. So as an example, these are the plan names, right? We have 8 plans on the left-hand side. That's what you know them as currently under Blue Cross, and we're going to change them over to the right-hand side. They're going to be known as HBT Choice or HBT Select. HBT is Health Benefits Trust, okay? So when we convert these over, Maura, I would do this at Salis. I would say, this is on your left-hand side, what you currently have. And as you see on the right-hand side, we didn't make any changes to the plan. The only thing that changed is the name. And I have 8, we have the SBCs. And we have the versions of this deck as it speaks specific to each school. I can give one which goes through the platitudes of Aetna and CVS and the online open enrollment and not speak to the specifics of the plan at that school. We could certainly do that and send that out. And then you guys could drive down into the granular of your school. And then this is kind of cool. So here's the book. Again, it's platitudes, but in the back, you see this flap here, and this is intended for you to put your school-specific information in there, payroll deduction sheet, anything else that you want. And then everyone at the school is going to get a white envelope from Aetna. And if you're covering 3 plans, there's 3 plans in that white envelope. If you're covering 1, There's one in that white envelope. So if a school has 100 employees, 30 in the HMO, 30 in the PPO, 30 in the high deductible, there's going to be 100 envelopes with all three, and you're going to say, Joe, here's the book on the information, here's your plan information, take a look at it, it goes through how you enroll online, you have until this date to get it done, payroll deductions are in the back, good luck, Godspeed, have a great year. Yes, so if they don't go through this process step, you can do that. You know what else you can do? Drop them. No, we don't encourage that. But you could do. I mean, that's a little too hardcore, but okay, yes.
Can you still want people who are not getting coverage to go in and apply again?
That's going to be on a school-by-school basis. So the question is, and we talked about this on a PAISBOA trustee level, the waivers, right? The capture of the waiver. So a lot of schools just have them sign off on a piece of paper and you stick that in a filing cabinet. That's fine, good, and well. You could have them do it online as well, and then you have an electronic signature of that action. The decision, I believe, was to not mandate that everybody go in there because it depends on each school. So if you did it per school, then potentially at Creffield they got that done, but other schools, it's their decision totally. Okay? There is a cost to do it on Business Solver.
The cost involved is minimal, but something. But the trust would prefer that you have everyone go online and waiver online, because then it's built into the whole system that God and everybody else can look at that this person is waived. You don't have to dig out the piece of paper from the file 10 years from now if it's still there. This would be a good thing to do, is to have people waive. We're willing to pay.
Best practice would be to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
But not mandatory, but best practice. Claudine. No, you're going into Business Solver. You're still going into Business Solver. Everything is driven through Business Solver. So everyone is going to be going into that portal, and they're going to make their elections for their medical plan. The RX is bundled into that. That's your decision, how you pair those two things up. And then you're going to choose the dental if the dental applies, and then they hit approve, and we push that out to the carriers. So that's how that's all going to transpire. Yes. No, so what we're going to do at the conclusion of this meeting and today is we're going to send out the link that Business Solver has a format, and it's called the OE Plan Class Pricing Report. Did I say that right, Jackie? She left? I would leave too. So OE Plan Class Pricing Report, where you upload the plan that you are electing and then the cost share. So if it's a $500 rate, you want to cover 50, 450, and 50, and then we can load that into the system. We obviously can't get that from you right now because you don't know what the rate is going to be, but you will in 22 minutes, and 8:25. 8:25 is when we need your plan elections. 8:25, 8:25. 8:25 is schools need to tell us these are the plans we're going to go forward with. We can turn Business Solver on 9:05. We can turn it on 9/5 if, for the employees, if you choose your plan and you give us that payroll breakdown. Now, when do the employees have to decide by? 9/29. So they'll have that month. You're going to have until the 25th. And I just want to make this little cheeky comment. I saw people go, oh my God, all these decisions. Bob has the great reveal. I don't want to steal anything from him, but I'll just make that smile. You like that? Okay. Yes, Deborah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they loaded it in, it's as it stands today. No, no, no. We're going to map it over. So GFS has a high deductible 2,500, 5,000. It's now going to be called the HBT 2,500, 5,000. The onus on the schools is going to be saying, this is what we currently offer, and here is the naming convention for the Aetna plan. So that could be done in this, that could be done in a communication to the schools, however you want to handle that, and then it's going to be captured after you tell us what the plans are in the Aetna packets that we mail to you. So that's how that's going to work, but when we do the migration on the back end, we aren't going to do, this is what you had, this is what it's now called, it's too many data fields. We're just going to replace what was there. Yes, so the side-by-side comparison that I showed there, we have a variation for each school if you request it like this, and I could say, you know, Gladwin Montessori, DPOS C3F302. I got that, right, Mike? Bang, nailed it. And then what the corollary would be on the other side, the Aetna HBT Choice 2040. That's what the plan would be called, and they'll go down and they'll say, yeah, all my copays match up, this is great. And now when they go online, it's going to say, Gina Hunt, boom, moves her over.
Imagine that it's election day and you're the local committee person, okay? And you're sending somebody into the voting booth, you know, and you want to make sure they do the right thing. You give them a sheet of paper and you say, this matches to that, go vote. Okay, that's what I would do with the employees. Make sure they have in front of them what makes it transparent to them.
Yes, I'm here.
So what happens if somebody told me they won't be able to enroll at that time?
Are you going to give me your elections before that? Okay, then.
So they'll be able to go on while you're there, they won't have a panic attack because you'll be there?
Well, wait a minute. That's two separate things. So you're asking, are they going to have availability to go online? Yeah, if you give me that information in the next week, I can build it for you. Now, am I going to stand over their shoulder and handhold them? I'm going to give them an overview of how it works, and then maybe I'll stand and answer global questions. But it's really simple. And Carol, help me here.
It's very simple.
It's very simple.
So we thought we would be doing it, and everyone did it. And I didn't take away the coverage. I said, if you don't do it, you won't have coverage, and that was enough.
Well, that was your idea. That was your idea, right?
That's my
I knew I didn't come up with that myself.
The other question I have is, there are a few more mandatory fields this year, right?
So the mandatory fields that we're going to have people complete when they're going through their elections are, what is your email address?
Which is new, because we didn't do that.
That's correct, but it's a simple one. And what is your primary care doctor ID number if you've chosen an HMO variation? That's it. Yes?
So the sooner so September 5th isn't the turn-on date, it's, the turn-on date is no later than September.
No later than September 5th.
So if
but
we get you our choices sooner.
We start to build.
It can become available to employees.
Yep. Now, I can't say that I'm going to have it next week. That's impossible.
Right.
We have so much back-end work to do between Business Solver, Aetna, CVS. It's monstrous.
Right.
But we are going to get it all up and running hopefully by the end of August so that those schools that are having us out in those last 5 days of August and heading into Labor Day weekend, we should be pretty well equipped.
So there's an advantage, everybody, to making your decisions as early as possible. For some, that might be more difficult than others just because of people being away, but definitely you don't want to wait for that deadline.
Right. Yes, in the back.
So we're telling them to go on their election. We want to make sure on our end that they actually have. So if you obviously install it, how can we make sure that
Yeah.
they have their
So thank you, and actually dovetails back to Joe's question, which I never answered. So there are open enrollment reports that you can run. And what it's going to tell you is who went in, and then who didn't. And then also, if you've gone in here and loaded all those rates, et cetera, you can run a payroll deduction report and use that to process against whoever your payroll processor is to say, Joe Smith chose this plan, here's his deduction on a 26, on a 24, on a 12 basis. And you're good to go. All right? Okay, I'm gonna start jamming here because I don't want to go overboard. Let's talk about the RX real quick. Stays in place. RX is going to continue with CVS. That was a great decision that the trust made to go with that partner. They've done an excellent job. One thing we want to talk about, just for your edification, that's it, is this world of specialty. Listen to this fact. In PAISBOA, okay, 14,500 humans, there were 43% of our total costs attributable to 1.1% of our scripts. So think about that. Just like a fingernail of our population driving almost all of our costs. That's the world of RX. We do well medically. RX is just what it is, and it's all in this specialty class. So specialty class says you're suffering from some major chronic condition. You can't exist in this world unless this medication is provided for you, and then you can function because you have MS or rheumatoid arthritis or hemophilia, cystic fibrosis, whatever it might be. This does keep you going, but at a tremendous cost. And the trend lines under specialty are ever growing. So this little slide here is tough to read, but you'll see that, we have, look at number 2. It's a specialty class of hemophilia, and if you look at the total utilizers, it's 1. And the cost for that script was $67,000. So this is Copaxone for multiple sclerosis. You'll see these commercials for Humira, for rheumatoid arthritis. They kind of frame it in a way where the girl's working out at the gym and she has a rash that she's a little self-conscious of. Okay, that rash costs about $33,000 a year to clear up. It's not a rash, it's rheumatoid arthritis, but there's significant cost impacts to procuring these meds. Not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that a person doesn't. I'm just giving the information that they are incredibly expensive, and it's something that we'll continue to wrestle with as a country in the very near and probably long-term future. It's going to be driving the growth rate of medical spend moving forward. So we'll continue to have these dialogues and say the increase is X, the increase is Y, and it's mainly attributable to RX, which is mainly attributable to specialty, which is a fraction of our population. But going back to what Bob started out with, why are we here? What are we doing this for? We're not doing this for the healthy. We're doing for the ones that are not well off. This supports the whole, okay? So mandatory mail is a program we are going to roll out this year because it's one of these levers that you can pull with an RX vendor that helps control costs. Here's what it does. If I take a medication every day for the rest of my life for blood pressure, for cholesterol, whatever it might be, that's a maintenance med. Today, I can get that pill on a 30-day basis at Walmart, at Giant, at Costco, wherever I'm going. It's fine. What we want to do is we want to drive it through CVS. So if I go into a CVS, I can get that script filled for 90 days, and I pay 2 copays. I'm not paying a copay every month. I'm going to pay 2 copays and get a 3-month supply. So it's much more cost effective, but we have people who are not doing that. So if they walk into a brick and mortar, they walk out with 90 pills, or they jump on the mail order program and it gets shipped to their house. Some people don't like that because it sits at their doorstep and they think it might get damaged in the sun or stolen. So they say, okay, we'll come into the store and we'll give you the 90 pills for the 2 copays. This is a program that we're going to roll out saying if you do go to the Walmart, if you do go to the Costco, moving forward, we want to drive all that distribution through the CVS. This is a very easy lever to pull. What we're going to do is have mailings going out to the actual people, so you have nothing to do with this. We know who they are. They get a targeted mailing. It says, we see you taking X, Y, and Z. You get it at the Giant. What we're going to do is give you November and give you December to transition over. And then effective January 1, we want these scripts filled through CVS. This is a cost savings to the member. They're saving that copay. It's a cost savings to the trust because we're driving everything through the most cost-effective point of CVS as our pharmacy benefits manager. So this is going to be a rollout effective 11/1, but there is a 2-month grace to roll it out. Andrea?
I just want to make sure that they have to do a mail order or go into the CVS.
Either or. They can go mail order, but mail order is going to be CVS.
Yeah.
Or they can go into the actual CVS store and pick up the script there at the brick and mortar store and walk out with 90 pills. Okay? Only maintenance meds. This is only maintenance meds, and we know who they are, so it's going to be a targeted mailing that goes out to them. But if a person says, listen, I go to the apothecary in Upper Darby, and I've been going there for 80 years. You will not change my ways. Well, yeah, we're going to change your ways. I'm sorry. The apothecary at Lansdowne Avenue is not our best deal, so we're going to have to change you over to the old CVS. Sorry about that. Okay? Yes?
get a notice once they hit their deductible, that they can now go into store?
Let me take that away, Patty. That's a great question. Question is, on the high deductible plan, since you're paying the true cost up to, and you don't use mail order when you're in the beginning part of that plan, once they cross over, how does that communicate? We know that the data files are being exchanged. I just have to look into it. I'll get back to you globally. Yes?
One other point, like you talk about the Umaras and the specialty drugs, the script outs will also nail them directly to your local pharmacy if you don't want them delivered to your door. You can go pick them up that way.
Okay, so there's a circumvention. All right, thank you. That's a good plan. Yes?
In January 1st, I get put on the maintenance medicine, and I go to what, get filled. Will that be, do they say to me it's not covered?
Yeah, there's going to be an edit at the Wegmans that says, no, this is not covered, and then they're going to have to be told, yeah, you've got to procure that through the CVS. So that's, right. Correct. So if a person picks it up on January 1, there might be that frictional point, but we'll work to remedy that, rather quickly. And actually, in these books, we put in two numbers that we thought would be important. Number one, the PAISBOA concierge number for Aetna, and then number two, there's a concierge number for CVS. I mean, we have direct access to both of those vendors, and it says, thank you for calling the PAISBOA CVS line. And actually, when you call into the Aetna concierge team, you call in and they say, if you're calling about RX, hit prompt 1. If you hit prompt 1, because your call is really about RX, but you called this number, transfers you over to CVS.
John, you should hold the other questions to the end.
I'm going to hold the other questions till the end. Delta Dental. Here's my big reveal for Delta Dental. If you are currently on one of our Delta Dental plans, your renewal is 0. Boy, fist pumps over dental. Okay. Easy room. Yeah, so what we're going to do there is just renew everybody as is unless you want to make a plan change. In the packets, which are outside being guarded by Sharon Douglas and a German Shepherd, you'll see the renewal rates for the medical, the renewal rates for the dental, if the dental applies to you. And if you're not on the dental plan, take a look at it. It's a very, very good plan. You have a basic and you have an enhanced. They're excellent coverages. We've had Delta Dental now for 6 years. We've had 1 rate increase as far as I can remember. And it's kind of universally enjoyed by all right? Now, vision. Vision is today in place with Davis Vision. Davis Vision is owned by Independence Blue Cross. We're leaving Blue Cross, so we're leaving Davis Vision. We are also going to lose the freestanding vision aspect. So let me remind people what that is. I'm on the HMO. I get a $100 vision rider with that plan. But then I also buy a $75 vision plan as well, because then I can get it every other year. Okay, that's fine. We also have this wonderful thing where people say, no, don't want the medical, don't want the dental, but I will take that vision. So they stand on our plan. We have 150 people that just take vision only. So the problem is we have to build that out on Business Solver every time. And the issue is that we're paying money to Business Solver to host somebody who's paying us $1.20 in premium. It costs $2.60 to be on Business Solver. You're killing us. So we're closing down freestanding vision and the ability to go off-cycle elections. It's one plan, and it's wrapped into everything. It's a $100, once every 2 years, program through IMED. Information is going to be in the packets. And what you'll be able to do with this is use this starting 11/1. So if persons at your plan are upset about the vision going away, tell them, go use it now. And then effective 11/1, we're going to flip over to IMED. That's good once every 2 years. That's your optometrist screening. And that's then going to be $100 towards frames, lenses, and hardware. Information is in your packets. Number 2, Doctors on Demand. This is our telemedicine program. This is awesome. If you guys don't know about this, then we need to message better, because this program is live today for all members of PAISBOA. This allows you and your membership to go online with a phone. You can FaceTime your doctor and stick out your tongue and say, what do you think? And they'll say, not your doctor, a doctor. Thank you. A doctor. There he is. He's up on the right-hand side. And you could say, Doc, not feeling great. What do you think of this rash? What do you think of this bee sting, etc.? And they can actually order a script for you there. So it is incredibly effective, efficient. It costs $10 if you're on the regular plan and $47 or $49 if you're on the high deductible. This material is also in the books. So we're going to have all of our membership aware of the fact that this process point is available to them. If they're using this.
Thursday night when I call.
Thursday.
10:30 on Thursday night.
10:30 on a Thursday night. So he calls Doctor on Demand, he gets what he needs, as opposed to going to Chestnut Hill ER. That costs us $2,500. This costs us $10. okay? Much more cost-effective, and we want to make sure people are aware of that. Last, Naturally Slim. These are the wellness programs that we have in place today. We rolled this program out many, many years ago. We had it for a couple of years. We just ran another cycle. And this is for metabolic syndrome. So what it does is it helps reverse people who are currently suffering from metabolic syndrome, which means you're much, much more predisposed towards a health ailment than a person without. So it takes a look at waist circumference, it takes a look at your blood pressure, it takes a look at your cholesterol, and people with those markers are going to have an issue. It's not if, it's when. So what we have done is rolled this program out, and people who go through it lower their levels across the board, and we have what's called a metabolic syndrome reversal as a result. What I like to think of it as, if you have a pool, because we're a claims pool, but think of it as a backyard pool. This is kind of like some of that film that sits on the top, and we're skimming it. We're trying to take off some of that easy to remove bad risk before it turns into something bad like a cardiac arrest that we're all paying for, okay? And then I have 2 slides left. I flip it to Bob. The Aetna Wellness program that you guys are going to get is really extraordinary, and I'm super excited about it. I've always loved this topic, but it was tough to do because we didn't have the best resources, and now we do. So with Aetna, effective 11/1. I want to say that one more time and underscore it with my finger. Effective 11/1. I can't do it 9/1, 10/1. 11/1. They're going to allow us to have screenings, biometric screenings, on site at your schools. So imagine building an entire wellness fair around this concept of, hey, everybody, we're going to have screenings. Please come through the cafeteria. We're going to have everybody get this done. The data is given to the members, so they're now more informed. It's given to Aetna, so now we're more informed, because this information is going to be used to help us control claims costs moving down the line, and it's free. Costs us nothing. Well, it costs us something, but you're not paying for it. So it's a good program to have, and we think that this is a huge win for all of PAISBOA. We want to make sure everybody takes advantage of it, and we're going to be rolling this out with robustness.
Just to clarify, you can't do it 11.
You're not going to do it 11-2.
It does require, because we work with Quest, it does require a lead time.
Okay. But it certainly doesn't start 10-2 either. It had to be after the effective date of the plan. Okay. If you're interested, let us know, and we'll start to set that up. And then the last thing is this Aetna program where Tim talked about the Aetna Navigator, right? You all have IB Express currently. That's your member portal. And Martha made sure that I pointed this out. If you have data on IB Express, that just doesn't disappear on 10/31. That stays live. You can still log into that. Please tell your membership that for a full year. So if you wanted to look back to IB Express to say, what were my claims? What were those drugs I took? That all exists out there. But starting 11/1, we do want these people to go on to Aetna Navigator. Use that site, use that portal, get engrossed in that platform. How are we going to incent them to do that? Well, we can do this. This is a health risk assessment program that they build into the program as well that encourages the people to do it. And if they go through and complete this and get familiar with the site and actually complete a health questionnaire, $50. It's fantastic. It's really, when I think about wellness programs that we've tried to kick off at 50, 60, 70 schools over the years, and they say, well, what do we do to encourage people? What's the carrot we could put on to kind of get them going? I can think about kicking this off with my eyes closed at all of your schools because they're giving us the resources to do them. I'm going to give it over to Bob, but before I do that, I'm going to give one last editorial comment. This is the PAISBOA Health Benefit Trust, and I just want to focus on that last word, trust. You trust it, your trustees, that what you were about to embark on was going to work. I think you're going to find that you made the right bet.
Just real quick, I sat down earlier and realized with great horror that I hadn't thanked our partners at Armstrong, Doyle, and Carroll. Talk about heavy lifting. You're awesome.
And while we weren't noticing, 2 of our trustees who weren't around for the initial introduction, Michelle Todd, stand up, and Tom Taft snuck in the door, and we want to recognize them as well. Okay, what you've all been waiting for, and I would promise to do this really fast if it could be done fast, but so you'll have to bear with me for a few minutes, even though we are at the witching hour. In order to come up with rate changes for this year, it was a huge project. These are the reasons why. There were multiple considerations to be taken into account. The plan eliminations that we agreed to in shrinking down from 14 plans to just 8. And then when you consider all the combinations with pharmacy, it's even bigger shrinkage than that. We needed to do that. For the most part, that was going to mean shrinking down to cheaper plans, which was going to have a real impact on revenue, not necessarily the same amount of impact on claims. The Mellman rate relativity studies, as well as information we got from IBC and from Aetna, showed that there were a lot of imbalances in the way our rates were structured, and that perhaps we needed to deal with that. Over time, we would have to deal with it a lot. And so the question becomes, as you're shrinking and moving and whatever, how do you hit the target? Okay, it's a moving target, so we're trying to pin rates so that they'll be appropriate to next year and all the claims that are going to accumulate next year, okay? And all we have to guide us is the history and whatever part of this year. So a lot of considerations to think about. And there were also 3 sets of interests. First of all, the trust, as a startup business, needs cash, needs capital. We didn't give it any capital to start with. Schools didn't invest money at first, and they did not want to have a third or 13th bill at the end of the year. So we had to structure it so that capital and cash were accumulating during the year, as I reported earlier. That's been successful. We want to make sure it continues to be successful. So the trust has an interest as an organism, as something that has to live that's a little bit separate from the participants and the employers. The institutional members were crying to us they needed as much budget relief in the area of health insurance and benefits as we could provide. It's been a hard time for schools, colleges, universities, not getting necessarily any better. Do this as efficiently as you can, take only the money that you need. And then finally, we have the employee participants who've been experiencing for a long period of time a shrinkage in their buying power, either because their salary doesn't go up as much as they want or at all, or because their part of the premium increases or their co-pays are increasing. Everybody needs a very tight solution. A generous solution is easy to supply. One that has to tightly fit all these different pieces, not easy. To do it, we had to look at a lot of data. We had to manage a lot of data. It's a massive complex of data. We have with our 14 plans and 5 different pharmacy plans, we have 54 unique participant combos, 14 different types of employees based on those 40 medical and 5 RX plans. There are actually 58 logical possibilities. Our members in their wisdom have only chosen 54. For each of those 54 choices, there are 4 different employee tiers. So as a result, you have 216 different price points that you're trying to change. And you're trying to change a way where you're kind of shrinking it down, and how will that shrinkage occur? This is being, the results of this are being experienced by 130 member institutions with 1 to 4 plans each, depending on how many they've elected. In the end, this lands on 8,200 employees plus approximately 7,000 dependents. We have, in the end, 3 medical plan rate factors. We have the KPOS plans. We have the Keystone plans. We have the PPO plans. We have the high deductible plans. They all work a little bit differently. And we have, we're going to wind up with 2 different, because of elimination, 2 different RX plans. We're shrinking from 4 down to 2. How do you visualize the impact of all that, of any one change in that entire context of interrelating data? It's kind of waltzing around like this. The answer is I built a calculator, and I'm going to make you listen to this simply because this is what my life has been for the last 2 months. If you don't believe that, ask my wife. The world in which I've lived, the 4 walls of my cell and the roof and the floor has been an Excel spreadsheet that is 92 rows deep and 1,800 columns wide. If I printed the whole thing out, it would go from that wall over to there. The results alone, what you're going to walk away with today, the actual sheets that show what's changing at your house, okay, and what the possibilities of choice that you have to replace what you have. All that is in a second sheet that's 14 columns wide by 4,585 rows long. Right, John? John had to print them all out. Is your printer dead? So that's what we were working with. Now I want to just show you a glimpse of what it is so you understand what we've tried, so you understand the results that you're going to have in a minute. John, how do I go to the spreadsheet? Everybody needs a personal digital assistant. John is mine. Okay, here you go. Here's what we did to fool with the rates, okay? And here's your 14 plans, okay? All the ones in yellow are shrinking away in the next year. So everything you see in yellow is disappearing, is being concentrated down into the blue or the white, okay? The blue are plans that may go away this next year. We don't know yet. So you can see there's a tremendous amount of data here. And in the end, it lands on individual participant types, as I've called them, the 54 possibilities. All right. Now, when we talk to you, in May, we said the trustees had looked at all this, and based on data through the end of March, you should plan on 2 to 5% increases. Okay. But they weren't sure, so they were keeping their powder dry. They were going to come back to you in August and tell you for sure. Wanted to make sure that they weren't coming up short because they have to finance the trust in ways I talked about. Well, in that period of time, a couple more months of data have become available. I poured them into the calculator and chewed on a lot. And in the meanwhile, Patrick's sitting there, good old Patrick, the banker, and he's watching money pour into our checking account a lot faster than it's pouring out. He said, Bob, we're more profitable than we thought we were. We can't tell for sure until the end of the year, but we're all through 9 months now, 8, 9 months, we are doing really, really well. How can we be in a position of putting money in the bank and saying, people, you got to pay 2 to 5% more? So this sound came echoing into me from Frank Galloway's and Hal David out and various other places. Bob, why not zero? We need zero. Why can't we have a zero increase? Well, we took a look at zero. We tried to work that out. And we cooked on that for a while. And the impact of zero was, a net zero increase, was a lot of people still got an increase. Well, how can that be? Well, the reality is you have this host of people who are being shrunk down into cheaper plans, and they're paying a lot less. Well, if somebody's paying a lot less and you want to be at zero, some other people got to be paying more. So finally, in the middle of the night, can't tell you what time, the thought struck me, we can't go for zero because it won't look like zero. So you see something up here which is called closer to zero increased budget. You can't read it, but that's what it says, closer to zero increased budget. That's what we wanted to get to, something that actually appeared closer to zero to the people who were experiencing. Well, the reality is we had to, first of all, and I'll get into this in particular, we had to deal with the imbalance in our pharmacy rates. IBC brought us IBC rates for our cheaper plans that were just too cheap. We haven't made it any better over the years. We had to start dealing with that because those were going to be the only 2 plans left. Okay, so we had to deal with the RX, and then we also had to look at the medical. But in the end, there were advocates. There were people who said, you got to have an increase. You're too young. The company is too, the trust is too young. We don't have enough experience to know that we can do a zero. We got to have an increase. You don't want to give people. Then the argument came, well, maybe zero can work. But what does it look like? So in the end, here's kind of what you wanted to have happen. You see this column here, okay? On all that yellow, you see a lot of red. Red means those people are paying less, okay? And we decided we wanted most people to see red. Now, normally as accounting people, you don't want to see red, okay? You want to see black. But in this case, we wanted everybody to get the best possible deal that they could. So we kept playing with it until we got to see a lot more red. Okay, John, let's switch back. Okay. So here's what we did. Here's the solution. Step 1, pharmacy rates. Correct historic IBC underpricing, as I discussed, and account for the migration of people into now cheaper plans, and also taking into account that, as John made clear, RX pricing is continually to trend high. Okay? Our trend is not as high as the community out there, but still trending. So we had to do something to change our RX rates. That was step one. Step two, deal with the medical rates. We have a negative medical trend now. The difference between now and a year and a half ago is incredible. We actually have a negative trend. That means overall our costs are going down. The only way to deal with that was to cut medical rates. So we did. Step three, balance everything. Make sure that we're coming out with the results that deals with the trust needs, the employer needs, the participant needs. The first part of step three of balancing the rates is make sure that the people who are forced to migrate out of the plan that they love to one that's cheaper, that it shows up in the premium they pay. Compensate them with lower rates. In some cases, hugely lower. Two, make sure that all participant types, all those 54 groups that got squeezed down into 14, and all those 130 institutions, make sure that zero does not appear as anything above 1%. So no participant staying in the plan that they're in, and no school keeping the combination of plans that it has, subject to that forced migration, would wind up with a net increase that hit 1%. That's what zero really looks like. Just a second. Step three. That means the overall average premium decreases by 1.16%. Probably for the first time in our history, certainly in what I can remember across 25 years. It's the first time anybody's gotten a decrease in their health rates unless they cheapen their plans. This is, well, yeah, this is pretty much the deal. Overall, we're going to save 1.16%. The trust as a whole is going to get along with less revenue because we're simply creating less claims. So step four, celebrate. Questions?
That first step one, and maybe I misunderstood. Didn't you say that IDC overcharged us for pharmacy?
Yes, they did.
How did it
We cut, well, okay, what we did is we cut the rate by 28%. When we calculated the rates for 2016-17, the year that we're in, we cut it by 26%. And it is coming in about where we put it. Next year, it's going to be higher because of trend. And that's factor one. Factor two is we're not taking in as much premium from the people. The people are being forced into a cheaper plan or paying us less premium. They aren't necessarily going to give us lower claims, substantially lower claims. So what we had to do for the two plans that remain, we had to adjust the rates for those two plans up. It's probably not going to generate a whole lot more revenue, a little bit more revenue. To counterbalance that and to take into account the negative medical trend, we've lowered the medical rates by 3%. So you could say in net, since we're netting a -1, probably collectively we've added 2% to the pharmacy budget for next year, which is, you know, just chipping off the first 2 points of that 28 points that we saved back. Yeah, anything else? I know this is very complicated. Believe me, it was complicated to produce the result. I think it'll be a satisfactory one. I'm sure your budget officers and your heads of school and your presidents and everything will be happy to get a decrease instead of an increase. And for most of you, that's really what it is. In the worst case, I think the worst one I saw was 0.98% increase. It's hard to get better than that. Maybe next year. All right? So you're free to grab your packages and go. Those of you who had questions that didn't get answered, John and I and the trustees and Tim Neary will be around to answer your questions. But thanks a lot for all your attention.